Welcome to foodandbeveragenowledge.com. Have you ever wondered how beer is made? Today, we'll take you through the step-by-step process, from malting to packaging. You'll learn when to add key ingredients, why they're important, and what makes each step crucial. Let's get started. Beer is made from just 4 simple ingredients: water, malt, hops, and yeast. Each plays a vital role in creating the beer's flavor, color, and aroma. Water. About 90% of beer is water, and the mineral content of water greatly affects the flavor. Different water sources influence how beer tastes, which is why certain regions are known for their beer. Malt. Malted barley, which is barley soaked in water and then dried, is the primary source of sugar for fermentation. Malt provides sweetness, color, and flavor to the beer. The more roasted the malt, the darker the beer. Hops. Hops are flowers that add bitterness to the beer, balancing the sweetness from the malt. They also contribute to the beer's flavor and aroma. There are different types of hops, and each adds a unique characteristic to the beer. Yeast. Yeast is responsible for fermentation. It consumes the sugars from the malt and produces alcohol and carbon dioxide. The type of yeast used also affects the beer's flavor, making it a key element in the brewing process. Now, let's break down the 8 key steps in the beer-making process. Step 1. Malting. The brewing process starts with malting, which is the preparation of the barley. First, barley grains are soaked in water for a few days to begin the germination process. This activates enzymes that convert the barley starches into fermentable sugars. After this, the germinated grains are dried in a kiln, stopping the germination process. The result is malted barley, and depending on the roasting time and temperature, the malt can be light or dark, which will affect the beer's color and flavor. The malting process also develops the sugar content of the grains, which is crucial for fermentation later. Step 2. Milling. Once the barley is malted, it moves on to milling. The malted barley is crushed into a coarse powder called grist. Milling breaks open the grains to increase surface area, which helps the enzymes work more effectively during the next stage, when sugars are extracted from the malt. The grist is ready for the next step, mashing. Step 3. Mashing. Mashing is a critical stage where the grist is mixed with hot water in a vessel called a mash tun. The hot water activates the enzymes in the malt, which break down the starches into simpler sugars, creating a sweet liquid called wort.
The temperature and time of mashing determine the sweetness and body of the beer.
If the mash is done at a lower temperature, the beer will be lighter, while higher temperatures create a fuller-bodied beer. The wort is then separated from the solid grain husks. Step 4. Lautering. Next comes the lautering process. After mashing, the wort is separated from the solid grain particles. The wort is filtered through a grain bed, and hot water is added to extract any remaining sugars. This process is called sparging. The wort collected from lautering is now clear, and it's ready to be boiled. Step 5. Boiling and hopping. The wort is then transferred to a boiling kettle, where it is brought to a boil. The boiling process sterilizes the wort and concentrates the flavors. At this stage, hops are added. Hops are used at different stages of the boil to achieve different effects. Bittering hops are added at the beginning of the boil, which gives the beer its bitterness. Flavor hops are added later in the boil, contributing to the beer's distinctive flavor. Aroma hops are added just before the boil ends or after boiling to provide aroma. The timing and variety of hops used will influence the final taste, aroma, and bitterness of the beer. Step 6. Fermentation. After boiling, the wort is cooled rapidly to a temperature suitable for fermentation, typically between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 72 degrees Fahrenheit for Ales and 45 degrees Fahrenheit to 55 degrees Fahrenheit for lagers. The cooled wort is transferred to a fermentation tank and yeast is added. This stage is called fermentation. Yeast consumes the sugars in the wort and produces alcohol and carbon dioxide. This process can take several days to a few weeks, depending on the beer style. The yeast type used will influence the flavor of the beer. Ale yeast creates fruity and complex flavors, while lager yeast produces cleaner, crisper tastes. Step 7. Maturation. Once fermentation is complete, the beer enters the maturation phase. This allows the flavors to develop and any residual yeast or particles to settle. During maturation, the beer is stored at a lower temperature, typically near freezing for lagers, to enhance clarity and flavor. This stage can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on the beer style. Some beers, like IPAs, might undergo dry hopping, where hops are added after fermentation to give the beer extra aroma without increasing bitterness. Step 8. Packaging. Finally, after maturation, the beer is ready to be packaged. It is usually filtered to remove any remaining yeast or particles, ensuring clarity. Some beers are carbonated naturally, while others are artificially carbonated by adding CO2. The beer is then packaged into bottles, cans, or kegs, sealed, and labeled for distribution. Proper packaging ensures the beer stays fresh and retains its flavor and carbonation.